My name is Chaitanya and I'm from India.
Cool. So Chaitanya, what's the origin of Hindu religion for you?
Uh, so, there's no religion called Hinduism in the first place. Okay, it's probably what you call a way of life, and so it earlier began with the Vedic period, which is around uh, 2.5 3,000 years before Christ. Now, the essential part of Hinduism is that Hindus see the world as being cyclical and infinite. So, everything that is in the universe uh, is considered as God, and God is in everything. So, the essence is this, that Brahma created the world. Now, the world is of two kinds. One is the world outside, which is the creation, and the world inside, which is in your mind. So, Brahma created both these worlds, and uh, he made us aware of the things that there are. And this is the awareness that leads to discovery. And the discovery of both the inner worlds and the outer world is what we call as creation. Now, we have around 330 million gods in Hinduism. There is no concept of the devil. In fact, there is no concept of evil. They are just absence of God. So, absence of God is what we would consider as evil, but there is no uh, primary figure like the devil in Christianity, who is the exact opposite of God and Jesus. So, that's something that we believe in Hinduism. So now Brahma created the creation, and the creation is divine, like I said earlier, and because of which everything is God, and God is in everything, which is why we have, gods for. There's a waterfall God, there's a God in a rock, there's a God that feeds us, and so on and so forth. So, how this works is that rocks can be God, pieces of stones can be God. What you can do is you can put a pair of eyes on them, you put a nose on them, and it becomes a deity that you worship, because this deity has now got senses. It can see, it can listen, it can hear. So it is a creation. It then becomes a god. You give it hands. So typically you'll find Indian gods with a raised right hand, which is the sign of benevolence and blessing, and the other hand is the offering hand, which means that the god is generous. So if you put a hand on a piece of rock, a pair of hands, the god becomes responsive in that way. So you pray to it and the god becomes responsive. Now, there are important things here. We have a lot of rituals in Hinduism. It's because we want to appease the gods that are there. So these rituals happen every day. There are rituals that you need to do every day, rituals that you need to do on certain important festivals, and rituals that you need to do annually at certain times of the year. So what these rituals do is, the idea is that when you have a rock and 10,000 people worshipping it, it is that God which is blessing everyone. So think of it as his power is being divided into 10,000 people. So you need to replenish that battery, you need to recharge that. And these rituals, we believe that the ritual helps in replenishing the aura that this rock kind of have. An important concept in Hinduism is something called as darshan, which is that you look at the god, that is, you behold the idol or the image of the god, precisely because it is a god. So I don't know if that makes sense, but darshan is an important part of Hindu rituals. You go to a temple to see the god, you go to a temple to visit the god. Now, the important point and a very interesting thing here is that, unlike other religious beliefs, uh, Hindu temples are not they're not prayer halls. They are not places of worship. You don't go to a temple to pray. You do, but it's not a prayer hall. Essentially, the temple is supposed to be the residence of the god. That's where the god lives. So you go to visit the god at his place, and if you look around, you will find all around India, temples have very beautiful, interesting architecture all over India. The architecture is different as you go to different parts. There are various styles of architecture of temples that you will find, but a common theme is that you'll find a lot of idols, you'll find a lot of images on the temples. You want to stop? Your hand is shaking.
Yeah.